It began as a faint blur on the edge of space, a speck of light moving too fast, too deliberately to belong here. At first, scientists thought it was a passing comet, just another wanderer from the frozen edges of the solar system. But then, it changed direction. No tail, no dust, no sign of melting ice. It was accelerating, as if something unseen was pushing it. That was the moment astronomers realized this wasn't natural. This was 3I Atlas, an interstellar visitor so strange that even the most advanced models of physics couldn't explain it. Data poured in from observatories around the world. Every number made less sense than the last. Its shape, its speed, its sudden bursts of light all broke the laws of motion as we know them. Some called it a comet, others whispered it might be a probe. But as the object vanished into the dark, the fear grew that it wasn't just passing through, it might have been looking back. Welcome to the Sleep Lab, where science meets the edge of the unknown. If you love stories that keep you awake wondering what lies beyond the stars, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on the bell icon. Because tonight, we're uncovering why scientists are panicking over 3I Atlas and what they found after it disappeared. It started with silence, the kind of cosmic quiet that stretches for billions of miles, where light travels endlessly and nothing seems to stir. On a chilly evening in late 2024, deep within the Haleakala Observatory in Hawaii, a group of astronomers from the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, better known as ATLAS, were going through the usual routine. They were looking for near-Earth objects, tracing the faint smudges of light that could one day become headlines. But one of those smudges wasn't behaving. The computer flagged it first. A flicker that refused to match any known orbital pattern. It was moving too fast, cutting across the sky at an angle that didn't belong to our solar system. Within minutes, it caught the attention of everyone in the control room. The object was catalogued under a temporary name, A3 2024 VI3, but that label wouldn't last long. Soon the world would know it as 3I Atlas, the third officially confirmed interstellar object ever detected by humanity. At first, there was only excitement. After all, the first two interstellar visitors, Oumuamua in 2017 and Comet Borisov in 2019, had already sparked wild theories and inspired countless scientific papers. But 3I Atlas was different. The readings didn't just challenge expectations, they shattered them. Its velocity was extraordinary. Over 61 kilometers per second, relative to the Sun. That's fast enough to outrun the gravitational reach of any known planet. Its trajectory was unmistakably hyperbolic, meaning it wasn't orbiting the Sun, it was just passing through. And yet the deeper they looked, the stranger it became. The object's brightness fluctuated rapidly, not like a tumbling rock, but like something polished, something reflecting light in controlled intervals. At first, scientists tried to calm the speculation. The official line was simple: a natural body, likely composed of ice and rock, ejected from another solar system billions of years ago. But privately, many of them weren't convinced. In internal Atlas logs, one researcher described it as behaving like it knows we're watching. Within 48 hours of its detection, telescopes from Chile, Spain, and the Canary Islands were pointed toward the object. Data began to flood in. Its light curve, the pattern of how it reflected sunlight, didn't fit any known asteroid or comet model. It wasn't spinning normally. It wasn't shedding gas or dust. And yet inexplicably it accelerated. No visible jets, no mass loss, no tail, nothing. NASA scientists tried to fit it into every conceivable category: hydrogen iceberg, dust aggregate, frozen nitrogen shard. Each hypothesis collapsed under its own math. The calculations showed that if 3I Atlas were natural, it would have to be made of something we've never seen before. By the third night, the observatory staff began to feel it, that subtle chill that comes when science turns into mystery. The chatter in the data room changed from technical to uneasy. The numbers didn't lie, but they didn't make sense either. "We're looking at something artificial," one analyst muttered under his breath, not realizing his mic was still on. The statement, caught on the night's internal recording, would later be leaked online, fueling a storm of speculation across the internet. Meanwhile, The official Atlas report was cautious, almost sterile. It referred to the object as an anomalous interstellar body displaying non-gravitational acceleration. But behind those cold words, panic was brewing. When Oumuamua had entered our solar system, some astronomers had suggested it might be a light sail, a wafer-thin structure powered by starlight. Most dismissed that idea as science fiction. But now with 3I Atlas, those same impossible details were repeating themselves, only this time, they were even harder to explain. At the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, Dr. Lina Morales reviewed the first composite imaging. "It's too symmetrical," she said quietly. "Look at the reflection angles, and they're geometric." Her colleagues leaned in, watching the object flicker like a slow-beating pulse across deep space. It was faint but consistent, almost rhythmic. Within a week, whispers began circulating through closed scientific forums. Some referred to it as the second messenger. Others simply called it the one that looks back. The panic didn't start from fear of aliens. It started from the recognition that physics itself seemed to be bending. If 3I Atlas wasn't a comet or a rock, then it meant that something was capable of creating and sending material across interstellar distances with precision beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. And then came the first anomaly in its light spectrum, a flash lasting less than a second, too brief to be a transmission, too structured to be random. The signature repeated 3 times in 12 hours, each time growing fainter as the object moved farther away from the sun. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California, the mood shifted from curiosity to urgency. A special task group, initially created for monitoring potential asteroid impacts, was reassembled in secret to track the event. They named it Project Sentinel. The mission wasn't to observe, it was to understand what humanity had just seen. Reports began surfacing of conflicting data between observatories. One telescope detected minor variations in polarization, as if the surface of 3I Atlas was shifting or reorienting itself. Another recorded faint radio interference in the same frequency band used for deep space communication. Officially, no connection was made. Unofficially, many were convinced. The object's approach was quiet, almost respectful. No visible trail, no violence, no sound. Just a ghost crossing the void. And then, like a shadow passing over water, it began to change direction. Not by much, just a fraction of a degree, but enough to be noticed, enough to terrify. "This isn't gravitational," a researcher at the European Southern Observatory said during a live data call. "Something is steering it." By that point, 3I Atlas had captured the attention of every major space agency on Earth. Data sharing agreements were suspended. Teams were ordered to work in silence. Leaks to journalists were met with denials so sharp, they only made the truth sound louder. But what no one could deny was that the object's movement, subtle as it was, couldn't be explained by known physics. It wasn't being pushed by solar radiation or gas ejection. It was as if it had corrected its course, slightly, deliberately, and then came the photograph, captured by the Subaru telescope. It showed a faint, elongated silhouette, surrounded by an almost imperceptible halo of light. The image was grainy, pixelated, but clear enough to spark chaos. It didn't look like a rock. It didn't look like a comet. It looked manufactured. Forums exploded. Scientists went quiet. And for a moment, humanity stared into the cosmic mirror and didn't like what it saw. The following week, news broke that a NASA dataset on 3I Atlas had been locked behind restricted access. The agency cited data integrity issues, but among researchers, the rumor was far darker, that the readings from the final day had shown something no one wanted to make public. Those who'd seen it claimed the object emitted a brief but measurable pulse of energy, a spike unlike any natural emission known to astrophysics. One researcher described it as a heartbeat, another as a beacon that blinked once, then died. By the time the world learned the name 3I Atlas, the object was already speeding away from Earth at nearly 200,000 kilometers per hour. No craft could reach it. No telescope could fully resolve it. It was leaving and escaping, and humanity could do nothing but watch. But for the scientists who'd witnessed those few fleeting days, something had changed. The night sky no longer looked the same. It wasn't just a void, It was alive with the possibility that something had found us first. For months afterward, the astronomical community scrambled to make sense of it. Some argued for natural explanations: sublimation jets, light pressure, fragmented dust cores. Others quietly admitted that the odds of two interstellar objects, Oumuamua and now 3I Atlas, both showing signs of controlled motion, were astronomically low. One line from a leaked internal email between two NASA researchers summed up the unease perfectly. "We're not looking at a rock. We're looking at a message. We just don't know what it says." The story of 3I Atlas wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to exist. Every known law of planetary formation said that an object like this shouldn't survive interstellar travel, let alone maneuver through a solar system billions of miles from home. And yet it did. It appeared suddenly, moved like it had intent, and vanished before we could understand it. It was as if the universe had whispered something, and then went silent before we could reply. And somewhere beyond the reach of any telescope, 3I Atlas continues its journey, indifferent, untraceable, carrying secrets that no human mind has yet begun to comprehend. But what's even more unsettling is what it might have left behind, because in the weeks after it vanished, strange data began to surface, patterns buried in radio noise, disturbances in the magnetosphere, and fragments of information that no one could explain. Some dismissed them as coincidence. Others saw a pattern, and deep inside the world's most guarded observatories, scientists began asking a question that would change everything. What if 3I Atlas wasn't visiting us by accident? The answer they feared was far worse, because whatever it was looking for, it might have already found. The first few hours after 3I Atlas was discovered felt like any other night at the Atlas Observatory in Hawaii. Routine, methodical, filled with the quiet rhythm of cosmic observation. Astronomers were used to tracking celestial wanderers, objects that came and went like whispers of the universe. But this one refused to behave. It was subtle at first. The numbers coming in didn't fit the standard parabolic orbit expected of comets or asteroids. Its trajectory wasn't curved inward toward the sun like a gravitational prisoner. It was open, hyperbolic, defying capture. This object wasn't from here. It was traveling so fast, so cleanly through space, that it couldn't possibly have originated from within the solar system. That realization struck like a thunderclap. What they had found wasn't local. It was interstellar. The scientific world buzzed overnight. At first, the excitement was almost electric. Humanity had seen interstellar visitors before, but only twice. Oumuamua in 2017 and Borisov in 2019. Yet even in those cases, the data, however strange, eventually bent to explanation. Dust tails, volatile emissions, solar radiation, everything had a place, a cause, a pattern. But 3 Atlas defied that comfort. It laughed in the face of equations. When early brightness readings came back, something was off. The object wasn't reflecting light the way it should. The luminosity fluctuated erratically, as if the surface was changing shape. One moment it gleamed brightly, smooth and mirror-like. The next it dulled to near invisibility. Astronomers adjusted their instruments, recalibrated sensors, double-checked for interference. But no, the pattern was real. It was pulsing. Dr. Miriam Khoury, one of the first to analyze the data, would later recall in a closed interview, "It wasn't tumbling like a rock. It was rotating with precision. It had rhythm, like a machine." The statement was never officially published, but it spread quietly through private scientific channels. The more researchers looked at the data, the more it seemed to behave like something engineered, symmetrical, deliberate, almost responsive. And that was terrifying. By the second week, more observatories had joined the effort. The European Southern Observatory in Chile, NASA's Deep Space Network, and several private research telescopes. Everyone wanted a piece of the enigma. They plotted its path, measured its speed, studied its albedo, and the numbers only deepened the mystery. It wasn't shedding gas or dust like a comet would. There was no visible outgassing, no debris, nothing to suggest a tail. Yet it accelerated, slightly, subtly, but undeniably. Something was pushing it away from the sun, a gentle force invisible to the eye. At first, the scientific community proposed solar radiation pressure, photons bouncing off a thin, reflective surface. But for that to be true, the object would have to be extremely light. Almost impossibly so. Not a solid rock, not ice. Something thin, vast, and engineered. Something like our sail. The term spread through labs and message boards like a spark in dry grass. Light sail. Could it be a fragment of an ancient interstellar probe? A derelict machine from a civilization older than ours? Or was it something entirely new? A natural phenomenon so alien to our experience that it only seemed artificial. The problem was that the more data scientists gathered, the less sense it made. Every explanation contradicted the next. The object's shape appeared elongated in one scan, disc-like in another. Its reflective patterns shifted depending on the observer's position. Sometimes it brightened in the absence of sunlight, as though something internal was powering it. But what shook the community most wasn't its movement, it was its silence. Telescopes aimed at 3I Atlas reported nothing. No pings, no frequency signatures, no background radiation that shouldn't be there. Just a void, as if the object were absorbing everything. Dr. Felix Moran, a data analyst at JPL, described it bluntly. It was like looking into a mirror that didn't reflect. Behind closed doors, NASA organized emergency briefings. Teams from SETI, the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, and the European Space Agency were pulled into late-night conference calls. The object's acceleration was undeniable, but without outgassing, what force could possibly account for it? Some theorized micropropulsion, that it could be self-correcting, navigating intentionally. That idea sent a quiet panic through the room. If it was navigating, then it had a destination. The debate fractured the scientific world. On one side, the conservative view. It's an unusually shaped comet, behaving oddly due to unknown surface physics. On the other, a growing whispering faction who believed this could be evidence of extraterrestrial engineering, the kind of artifact that would rewrite not just astronomy, but the story of humanity itself. The panic wasn't loud. It wasn't chaos. It was silence, the kind that fills a room when every brilliant mind present realizes they might be standing at the edge of something they don't understand. Weeks passed, and new instruments were aimed at the visitor. Spectroscopic readings revealed trace elements inconsistent with ordinary asteroid composition, rare metals, possibly crystalline compounds. The reflectivity pattern was complex, almost coded. Some segments seemed to blink in precise intervals, reminiscent of binary timing. Theories multiplied. Was it communicating? Signaling? Was the pulse an accident of light or something deliberate? The discovery soon left the realm of open research. Observatories began reporting sudden data restrictions. Shared datasets vanished from public servers. Emails were rerouted through government filters. It was as if someone somewhere decided that the world wasn't ready for what the data implied. Still, a few persistent scientists refused to let it fade. They dug deeper into archived readings, the early ones unaltered before the clampdown. And what they found sent a chill through every rational explanation. In the last 36 hours before 3I Atlas disappeared, its trajectory bent, ever so slightly, against the gravitational curve it should have followed. It steered, not by much, but enough to suggest awareness, enough to suggest choice. Some scientists called it sensor error. Others said atmospheric distortion. But deep down, everyone knew what that kind of maneuver would mean. A rock doesn't turn, a comet doesn't course correct. Something guided it. Even if that something was long dead, long drifting, or simply beyond our comprehension. When the official reports were released weeks later, they were clinical, bloodless, stripped of all emotion. Anomalous object, non-gravitational acceleration, no conclusive evidence of artificial origin. But those who'd seen the raw data never forgot what they felt. Awe, confusion, and the cold realization that humanity had just watched something intelligent pass through its front yard and leave without saying a word. And yet, that was only part of the story. Because as the object faded from our senses, a new pattern began to emerge. Faint echoes in the electromagnetic field, rhythmic fluctuations in deep space background noise, almost like a reply, almost like a whisper. Scientists tried to dismiss it as interference, a trick of data compression. But when the same pattern appeared in multiple observatories across continents at the same intervals, the whispers turned to fear. Something was out there. Not visible, not traceable, but responding. That's when the panic truly began. It wasn't about invasion or contact or danger. It was the deeper, colder fear that maybe we weren't supposed to notice. That 3i Atlas had come here not by accident, but to see if we were watching, and we were. But the question that haunted every observatory long after the data vanished was this: what if it noticed that we noticed? The panic wasn't broadcast. There were no press releases, no public alerts, just sleepless nights, locked lab doors, and the quiet hum of computers replaying the same impossible readings. It was science at war with its own limits. It was wonder turned to dread, because in the end, what terrified them wasn't what 3i Atlas did. It was what it didn't do. It didn't crash. It didn't emit. It didn't decay. It simply arrived, observed, and left. And that silence, and that perfect unbroken silence, and said more about the universe than any signal ever could. Perhaps it wasn't a message meant for us. Perhaps it was a reminder that in a cosmos this vast, we are still children staring at the stars, desperate to understand the patterns in the dark. And maybe, just maybe, the stars are looking back. At first, the scientists believed the strangeness of 3i Atlas had reached its limit. Its speed had already defied gravitational logic. Its course had bent around nothing visible, and its light curve seemed to flicker like a heartbeat. But then something happened, something no telescope was built to interpret. It began with static, deep within the data logs from a network of radio telescopes in Chile and Australia. A faint distortion appeared, a tremor in the frequencies so small it should have been dismissed. But when a postdoctoral researcher named Dr. Lila Wren ran a cross-check, she froze. The anomaly wasn't random, it pulsed, once every 43 seconds, perfectly spaced. Too perfect. Her colleagues brushed it off as interference, maybe a passing satellite, maybe a cosmic ray burst. But Wren knew better. She isolated the sequence, filtered out background noise, and layered the frequencies over time. The result made her heart skip, a pattern. Not words, not music, but rhythm. A rhythm that didn't belong to chaos. Across the Pacific, at the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, another team was logging a similar distortion, identical intervals, same fading amplitude, same strange decay. When the data reached NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, a quiet alert went out to a select group of scientists under a classification label. Level Red, Anomalous Signal Analysis. What made it terrifying wasn't just that the pulses matched. It was where they came from. Every burst lined up perfectly with the coordinates of 3i Atlas. At the exact moment, it was vanishing from optical view. For days, the astronomy community stayed silent. Observatories were told to refrain from public commentary, while teams reanalyzed the data. Dr. Wren received an encrypted message requesting her to forward her full data package directly to NASA's Deep Space Network. She did, but not before copying it to a private drive. Something in her gut told her she'd never see that data again. Meanwhile, in a control room at the European Space Agency, two engineers stared at their telemetry feed from the Mars Express orbiter. The spacecraft's magnetic sensor had just recorded a massive but momentary disturbance in the solar wind, a surge of electromagnetic energy that seemed to ripple from deep space, intersecting Earth's orbit at the exact coordinates of 3i Atlas. Coincidence, perhaps. But coincidences don't repeat. Within 12 hours, a similar surge was detected by Japan's Hinode satellite, then again 2 days later by the Parker Solar Probe, each time weaker, as if fading away. Like the dying echo of something passing through, the official explanation, released quietly weeks later, called it an instrumental calibration anomaly. But those who had seen the raw data weren't convinced. The patterns were too deliberate, too clean. Dr. Lila Wren didn't sleep for 3 days. She sat in her small apartment in Pasadena, staring at the spectrogram on her laptop. The pulse frequency, 43 seconds, kept repeating in her mind. She began to wonder, what if it wasn't just a pulse? What if it was a countdown? Elsewhere, Harvard astronomer Dr. Ethan Rowe had been studying the same data. He noticed something everyone else had missed. The intervals weren't perfectly identical, each cycle shortened by a fraction of a millisecond. To the untrained eye, it looked like noise, but when he plotted the entire dataset over a 48-hour timeline, The pattern resembled something organic, a decay curve, like the rhythm of a heartbeat slowing down. Rowe called Wren that night. Their conversation, later leaked through an anonymous forum, was only 8 minutes long. In it, he said one sentence that would haunt the scientific community for months. "Lila, it's not a transmission. It's telemetry. It's adjusting." No one outside that circle understood what that meant, at least not at first. But when paired with 3I Atlas's erratic acceleration and fading luminosity, the idea became chillingly clear. The object wasn't being pushed by anything, it was pushing itself. For decades, astrophysicists had debated the concept of interstellar probes, objects propelled by light sails or magnetic drives capable of crossing galaxies. But such technology would require precision, intelligence, and intent. The implications were unthinkable. Still, scientists don't panic easily. They investigate, they verify, they test. But what happened next made even the skeptics lose sleep. A small facility in the Atacama Desert, part of the ALMA observatory network, picked up a new anomaly. It wasn't a pulse this time, it was a shift. The faint residual radiation where 3I Atlas had passed suddenly changed polarization. It rotated, almost like a compass needle twisting toward an invisible magnetic north. For a brief, terrifying second, the field aligned perfectly with Earth's axis, and then dropped to zero. Silence. The following day, Dr. Wren's access credentials to NASA's shared database were revoked. Dr. Rowe's university email was wiped. The Level Red project vanished from the archive. In its place was a single phrase: data relocated, classified access only. When journalists asked NASA for comment, the agency spokesperson laughed it off as social media hysteria. But the tone in the scientific community had changed. Forums went dark. Research threads were deleted. And one by one, the names of the scientists involved disappeared from public conferences. The panic didn't come from proof of aliens or technology. It came from silence. When governments go quiet, scientists get scared. In December, a small online leak appeared on an encrypted astronomy message board. A user claiming to be a technician at the Deep Space Network posted a spectrogram labeled Atlas 43. It showed the same pulse pattern Dr. Wren had recorded, but stretched out, faint, distant. Someone replied asking what it was. The technician's last message read, "It's still transmitting, but not to us." Then the account was deleted. Weeks later, the world moved on. News cycles shifted. The scientific papers were never published. But inside private chat groups and closed research networks, the whispers continued. If 3I Atlas wasn't a comet and it wasn't a rock, what was it? Dr. Rowe left academia in January. In his final online post before deleting his account, he wrote, "We used to think we were searching for life, but maybe the universe already knows where we are." Months after the event, researchers began reanalyzing the archived data from 3I Atlas's passage. They found something buried in the noise, a faint Doppler shift anomaly, symmetrical, like an echo responding to itself. One physicist described it as a mirrored ping. When they triangulated the trajectory, the signal seemed to bounce not from the Sun or any known planet, but from a position roughly 0.3 light-years away, an empty stretch of interstellar space. Empty. Or waiting. NASA never confirmed it. The leaked data vanished, but whispers persisted that the pulse intervals, those 43-second rhythms, matched the estimated spin frequency of the object itself, meaning the signal wasn't coming from 3I Atlas. It was 3I Atlas, a self-powered, rotating, autonomous mechanism, alive only in the mathematical sense, but responding to its environment. Adjusting course. Gathering data. And as it slipped beyond the range of our telescopes, the pulses stopped. One final burst, stronger than all before, flashed across multiple receivers in Chile, Hawaii, and Madrid. Then nothing. Silence again. It left behind no debris, no tail, no trace. But the magnetic field of our solar system registered a microscopic fluctuation. A fingerprint, too delicate to replicate, too exact to ignore. For those who studied it, one fact became impossible to deny. Something had interacted with us, and it had done so deliberately. That was the moment the world's leading observatories quietly shifted focus. Funding proposals appeared overnight for passive observation arrays, deep field signal triangulators, and non-radiative detection systems, the kind of technology designed not to broadcast, but to listen. Because maybe the real panic wasn't that 3i Atlas had visited us, it was that someone, or something, might be waiting for our reply. And as Dr. Wren later said in her only surviving interview before she vanished from public view, "We've always believed the universe is vast and silent, but silence can be deceiving. Sometimes it's just the pause before something answers back." The night the data stopped making sense, a quiet panic rippled through the scientific community. At first, it was whispered across internal channels, lines of encrypted text sent between observatories, universities, and classified government servers. Something about 3i Atlas wasn't behaving the way celestial objects should. The acceleration had increased, but there was still no visible force behind it. No jets of gas, no debris trail, no gravitational assist from any nearby planet. It was as if the object had simply decided to change course. Inside NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the data analysts didn't speak much that night. Their screens glowed with shifting coordinates and faint telemetry signals that shouldn't have existed. When the lead researcher finally broke the silence, her voice cracked just enough to betray her fear. "Check the data integrity," she said. "It has to be a sensor ghost, right?" But it wasn't. The European Space Agency confirmed the same anomaly. So did independent astronomers in Chile and Australia. The numbers matched perfectly. 3i Atlas was maneuvering. And not just drifting in a gravitational current. Maneuvering. The first emergency meeting was called within the hour. In a secure conference line spanning 3 continents, scientists, astrophysicists, and defense representatives gathered under digital anonymity. Their cameras stayed off. Their voices trembled between reason and disbelief. "It can't be natural," one astrophysicist said flatly. "We're looking at a non-gravitational acceleration pattern consistent with controlled thrust." "But there's no signature," another voice countered. "No ion trail, no chemical residue. What engine leaves nothing behind?" A heavy silence followed, the kind that doesn't end until someone admits what everyone is already thinking. Finally, a senior researcher from Harvard broke it. "Then it's not an engine," he said. "It's something else." Those 3 words were enough to split the group in 2, half desperate to keep studying the data, half wanting to shut it down entirely. Because behind the numbers, behind the calculations, was a darker implication. If 3i Atlas wasn't natural, it was made. And if it was made, someone or something had sent it. For the first time, human curiosity was wrestling with fear. Over the following days, institutions that normally competed with each other began quietly exchanging information. Harvard's Astrophysics Department received encrypted packets from JPL. The ESA sent observational data that never made it to public archives. A few scientists noticed subtle redactions in shared documents, timestamps missing, coordinates erased, entire observation periods marked as classified. It was clear that something bigger than academic protocol was at play. Leaked emails, the kind that were meant to disappear, hinted that government agencies were already involved. One particularly chilling message contained only a single line of text. "All future observations of 3i Atlas fall under national security review." And that was when the panic stopped being theoretical. In closed labs and windowless offices, scientists who had spent their lives chasing truth found themselves being told to stop asking questions. Projects were reassigned, data access revoked. One observatory in New Zealand reported that its telescope logs had been remotely locked for system maintenance. But the timing was too perfect. The day they were locked out was the same day 3i Atlas's signal pattern changed. Because now it wasn't just moving, it was fluctuating. Somewhere between Mars and Jupiter, the light curve from 3i Atlas began to pulse in a repeating pattern. Faint, almost imperceptible, but rhythmically consistent. The pulses came in clusters, separated by intervals too deliberate to be random. The scientists who saw it didn't dare call it what it looked like, but the word was whispered anyway. Transmission. At first, they ran every test imaginable, checking for instrument error, atmospheric interference, cosmic rays. Nothing fit. The pattern held steady, even across different observatories. It wasn't the equipment, it was the object. One physicist at the European Southern Observatory risked everything by leaking a short segment of the data to a private research forum. It lasted only 5 minutes before it was deleted, but not before a few independent analysts downloaded it. The pulse intervals, when translated into binary, produced an unmistakable ratio, one matching the hydrogen spectral line, the universal constant of atomic communication. Hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe, the one constant that any intelligent species would understand. If the data were real, it meant that 3I Atlas wasn't just passing by. It was speaking. But what terrified scientists even more was that the signal stopped the moment the leak went public, as if it had been listening. After that, the walls closed in. At Harvard, the team that had first identified the anomaly suddenly found their research under review. Their public findings were scrubbed from the university database, replaced with a statement about instrument recalibration errors. NASA's internal memo, which was supposed to summarize the event, was labeled confidential, do not distribute. Even the private SETI network received instructions to redirect all frequencies associated with 3I Atlas. And yet, no one dared ask who gave those orders. Behind the polished press releases and official silence, there were fractures, sleepless scientists haunted by what they weren't allowed to say. One researcher, known for his calm demeanor, was seen leaving his lab in tears. When asked later what was wrong, he simply replied, "It's not the object I'm afraid of. It's the fact that someone already knew it was coming." That sentence spread like wildfire among the few who were still talking privately. Could it be possible that 3I Atlas hadn't been a surprise at all? That it had been tracked long before? The public announcement, perhaps even predicted. In declassified fragments of older mission reports, a few researchers noticed familiar patterns. Similar velocity signatures, similar anomalies, objects that had appeared briefly on deep space scans decades ago, only to vanish before being catalogued. They had been dismissed as glitches, static in the cosmic noise. But now, those same coordinates seemed to form a path. Our trajectory. It wasn't just a random visitor. It was part of a sequence and a chain of interstellar objects, each moving through different regions of the solar system at carefully measured intervals, one every 15 years, and 3I Atlas was right on schedule. The thought was unbearable. Were these simply relics of a distant civilization drifting through time, or were they probes, silent observers mapping every inhabited world they passed? By now, public curiosity had started to fade. The news cycle had moved on. But within locked laboratories, the fear had only deepened. A handful of scientists resigned quietly, citing mental exhaustion. Others continued in secret, using personal telescopes and private funding. Their unofficial network became known informally as the Atlas Group. Late one night, one of them, a radio astronomer in Canada, picked up something she couldn't explain. Not a signal from the object itself, but an echo, a faint reflection bouncing back from somewhere in deep space. The frequency matched the original pulse from 3I Atlas, but inverted as if it had been answered. Her hands trembled as she recorded the signal, time-stamped it, and sent it to the only colleague she trusted. He never replied. A week later, she found her research files gone, her telescope access credentials revoked, and her name quietly erased from the observatory's records. By the time 3I Atlas disappeared beyond the reach of human instruments, the official story had been rewritten entirely. It was now classified as a non-anomalous interstellar object, its erratic behavior attributed to thermal acceleration, a technical way of saying we have no idea. The panic had been buried under paperwork and press conferences, but among those who had seen the real data, those who had heard the whispers, watched the signals and read the leaks, there was no peace. They spoke of a shared, quiet dread. Not because of what 3I Atlas was, but because of what it meant. For every mystery we solve, the universe offers another, deeper, colder, and infinitely more aware. And somewhere out there, far beyond the orbit of Neptune, 3I Atlas continued its silent journey. Maybe it was just a rock, Maybe it was something else entirely. But the scientists who once studied it in fear can't shake a single haunting thought. What if it's coming back? And next time, it doesn't want to be found. For weeks, 3i Atlas had been the center of the astronomical world. Every observatory from Chile to Hawaii, from Canary Islands to Arizona had one objective: keep eyes on the object. It was the second confirmed interstellar visitor in human history, and yet it behaved like no natural body ever recorded. Scientists, exhausted and obsessed, took turns monitoring it through sleepless nights. Each new line of data was supposed to bring clarity. Instead, it deepened the unease, and then, without warning, it began to fade. At first, the dimming was subtle, a small change in its albedo, the way it reflected sunlight. A minor data fluctuation, some thought, perhaps dust, perhaps rotation. But as the hours passed, the brightness curve dropped sharply, faster than any trajectory model predicted. The world's most powerful telescopes adjusted their focus, recalibrated sensors, double-checked their software. The object was moving farther, yes, but the numbers didn't align. It wasn't fading naturally, it was disappearing. Dr. Elaine Harker from the European Southern Observatory was one of the first to notice. "It's like watching something intentionally dim itself," she whispered into her recorder. "It's not obeying distance laws. It's controlling its own visibility." The data feed cut out 2 hours later. In the following hours, observatories across the globe scrambled to locate 3i Atlas again. NASA's infrared telescope facility switched to emergency tracking mode. The Chinese Space Science Center sent a burst alert to its deep sky network. The Canadian Hydrogen Array reported noise interference on its band, the same frequency they had been using to monitor 3i Atlas's radio reflection signature. Some called it coincidence, others didn't. By midnight, UTC 3i Atlas was gone, not destroyed, not fragmented, not evaporated. So simply forgone. The panic wasn't immediate. Scientists are trained to rationalize, to find reason in chaos. But as data was reviewed and re-reviewed, fear crept in. The trajectory didn't match a simple vanishing point. There was no outgassing, no gravitational slingshot, no solar event strong enough to alter its course that dramatically. Instead, 3i Atlas had shifted its vector mid-flight, changing direction in a way that no known physical process could explain. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the mood turned cold. "It broke free," said one systems analyst. "It didn't slow down. It redirected." Someone asked the obvious question, redirected to where? No one answered. In the following days, the astronomical community entered what some quietly called the silence phase. Emails went unanswered. Research data was pulled from public archives. The Minor Planet Center froze updates to its tracking log, citing incomplete verification. But inside the encrypted networks, scientists spoke in alarmed fragments. A few used metaphors. One message simply read, "We are not alone in observation." That phrase, "not alone in observation," became something of a whispered curse, because around the same time 3i Atlas vanished. Several deep space monitoring stations recorded something else, a pulse. A single broadband spike lasting less than 2 seconds, undirected but eerily similar to radar reflection. It came from the region 3i Atlas had last been tracked. By the time instruments reoriented to capture it again, the signal was gone, as if it had been sent once deliberately, then withdrawn. Harvard astrophysicist Dr. Avi Rahman described it best in an interview weeks later. "It's as if the object winked out, but wanted us to know it did." For the public, news of the disappearance arrived as a headline buried beneath other stories. "Interstellar object no longer observable," read the press release, "dry technical safe." But those who followed the case, the independent astronomers, the data archivists, the scientists too stubborn to stay silent, knew that something historic had just occurred. One amateur observatory in New Zealand claimed to have caught the last few seconds before 3i Atlas faded completely. The footage was grainy, barely discernible, but analysts noted a flicker, a pulse of light that seemed almost rhythmic. 3 bursts, then nothing. Some dismissed it as cosmic rays striking the sensor, but others believed it was intentional, a last transmission, a sign-off, a message in the dark. The emotional toll on the research teams was heavier than they admitted publicly. Some had devoted months, others years, to tracing the faint trail of 3I Atlas across the void. Many felt as though they had been witnessed by something vast and unreachable, and then abandoned without answers. "It's strange," said Dr. Harker in a later interview. "You'd think we'd be relieved it's gone, that the tension would break. But it's worse now. It's the silence. You can't unsee what it made you feel. The public soon moved on, as it always does. But inside the astrophysics community, the event lingered like a scar. Conferences refused to discuss it. NASA and ESA both archived the final observation sets under classified review categories. Independent researchers trying to access the files received error notices, citing data sensitivity. And yet, leaks continued. Someone on an internal research channel shared fragments of the infrared data, stripped of metadata. Within those numbers lay an anomaly, a faint thermal residue inconsistent with solar heating. It wasn't fading away, it was absorbing light before vanishing. That discovery reignited an older, more dangerous theory, that 3I Atlas wasn't made of rock or ice, but of something designed to manipulate energy, maybe even to hide within it. Conspiracy theories exploded overnight. Some claimed it was a probe. Others believed it was an autonomous seed from another system, a machine built to collect data and retreat. One thread suggested something darker, that it had stopped transmitting not because it left, but because it arrived. But for all the noise, one quiet truth remained undeniable. The numbers didn't add up. Nothing about its trajectory, reflectivity, or disappearance could be explained by physics alone. In the following months, satellites began registering slight, recurring disturbances, shifts in cosmic background radiation in the same region of space where 3I Atlas was last seen. Too subtle to announce, too persistent to ignore, a whisper in the static. A memory of motion where nothing should be. Some said it was coincidence. Others, especially those who had seen the data firsthand, began to believe something extraordinary. That 3I Atlas hadn't left our solar system, it had simply become invisible to us. There's a word in astronomy for this kind of silence: transient absence. It refers to celestial phenomena that appear, vanish, and never return, like cosmic phantoms. But this wasn't just absence. It was intelligent silence, the kind that feels deliberate, the kind that leaves you wondering if you were meant to see it only once. Months later, when the panic had quieted and the data was locked away, one anonymous scientist leaked a final statement to a small online forum. It was written like a confession. We didn't lose it. It stopped letting us see. That single sentence would spread like wildfire across research circles. The implication was terrifying, because if 3I Atlas could control its visibility, its trajectory, and perhaps even its emissions, then it wasn't just an interstellar rock. It was a presence, a watcher, something observing us, testing our awareness before stepping back into the dark. And the more scientists tried to convince themselves otherwise, the deeper that unease grew. They had spent their lives studying stars, planets and comets, unfeeling objects obeying the laws of physics. But now, for the first time, they were forced to confront something that acted aware. The silence after its disappearance wasn't peace. It was pressure. The kind of silence that hums at the edge of comprehension, the sound of the universe holding its breath. And so in the months that followed, the name 3I Atlas was spoken less and less. Its files faded from search results. Funding proposals using its designation were quietly denied. Yet in private circles, in encrypted chats between scientists too shaken to sleep, one question kept resurfacing, whispered, never answered. If it could disappear at will, could it come back? No one dares to say yes, but every night telescopes still point toward that same silent corridor of space, waiting, watching, listening for a flicker that might one day return. Because 3I Atlas didn't just vanish, it chose to. And somewhere out there beyond the edge of our understanding, it may still be watching us. For weeks after 3I Atlas vanished into the ink-black curtain of space, observatories around the world fell into a strange kind of silence. The object was gone. No more readings, no reflections, no data trails to chase. But for the scientists who had spent sleepless nights tracking its erratic movement, something didn't feel over. It felt unfinished, like the story was still being written, just beyond the reach of their telescopes. At first, it was treated as closure. NASA issued a brief statement confirming that 3I Atlas had exited observational range, its brightness now too faint to detect. For the public, that was the end. But behind closed doors, in the long, sleepless corridors of the world's observatories, something else was unfolding. Because when the data was reanalyzed months later, it revealed something no one had seen before, something that changed everything. It began with a single inconsistency in the radiation data collected on the object's final night in range. An astrophysicist at the Cerro Tololo Observatory in Chile noticed a faint pulse embedded within the infrared readings, a rhythmic fluctuation that didn't match any known stellar interference. At first, she thought it was a calibration glitch, but when she cross-checked it with other observatories, from Hawaii to the Canary Islands, the same pulse appeared. Same rhythm, same frequency, 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off. Like a heartbeat in the void, word spread quietly between research groups. The pattern was too deliberate, too clean to be random. Some argued it was nothing more than the dying echo of sunlight bouncing off a rotating surface. Others weren't so sure. A researcher at Harvard's Center for Astrophysics compared the frequency to electromagnetic patterns generated by controlled propulsion systems, the kind seen in ion drives. But there was no engine, no ship. Just 3-eyed Atlas fading away like a ghost that left fingerprints behind. Within weeks, the data was classified. Research papers vanished from preprint servers overnight. Entire datasets were locked under review protocols. Scientists who had been openly collaborating suddenly stopped responding to messages. In one internal NASA email later leaked to the press, a researcher wrote, "It's not the acceleration that scares me, it's the consistency." Something was controlling it, and then it stopped. That word, "controlling," began circulating like static in the dark. Theories multiplied. Could 3I Atlas have been a natural body altered by some unknown external force? Or worse, could it have been emitting something back? SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, quietly re-examined several radio anomalies recorded during 3I Atlas's flyby. The results, though inconclusive, were unsettling. Multiple bursts of narrow-band signals, each within microseconds of the object's closest solar approach. Coincidence, perhaps, but the alignment was perfect, too perfect for comfort. Meanwhile, across the Pacific, a research team in Japan studying magnetospheric fluctuations noticed something peculiar. During the same period, 3I Atlas was passing near the inner solar system. Earth's magnetic field experienced a series of brief, symmetrical oscillations, sharp, repeating distortions unlike any caused by solar winds. When mapped chronologically, the disturbances formed a sequence that matched the object's observed trajectory. In other words, something in space had interacted with the magnetic field of our planet, directly. Intentionally or accidentally, the implications were terrifying. If the interaction was deliberate, it meant 3 Atlas had been aware of us. Not in the poetic sense of cosmic wonder, but in the cold mathematical precision of contact. If accidental, it still meant the object carried properties capable of altering electromagnetic fields across millions of kilometers. Technology, or physics, far beyond our comprehension. But perhaps the most disturbing finding came from a small data analytics team in Germany. While analyzing archived optical data, they discovered that in the final 18 hours before 3I Atlas disappeared, its reflection signature had changed drastically. Instead of scattering light uniformly, it began to emit polarized flashes, structured, patterned, almost like binary pulses. At first, the team assumed it was random tumbling, but when they ran a frequency analysis, the results spelled out a repeating mathematical sequence, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, the Fibonacci sequence, the universal code found in nature, architecture, and even DNA. Coincidence? Possibly. But in the history of the cosmos, coincidence rarely looks that deliberate. When this discovery reached the US Naval Observatory, an emergency review panel was convened. For 3 days, scientists, mathematicians, and military advisors debated whether the pattern represented natural resonance or intentional signaling. The debate ended unresolved. One physicist reportedly left the meeting saying, "If it was a message, It wasn't meant for us to understand. Not yet. Then something even stranger happened. 6 weeks after 3I Atlas vanished beyond detection, telescopes monitoring the outer solar system began picking up faint infrared echoes, not from the object itself, but from its path. Imagine the wake left by a ship across dark water, invisible yet traceable by the disturbance it leaves behind. These faint thermal residues were arranged in arcs, almost like deliberate course corrections. It was as if the object hadn't been drifting, but navigating, choosing its path. That's when panic began to set in. If 3I Atlas had been navigating, then someone or something had guided it. And if it had guided itself, that meant it was an autonomous system, a probe, a messenger, or worse, a scout, a technology that crossed interstellar distances with silent purpose. Scientists began re-evaluating everything they knew about Oumuamua and Borisov. Perhaps they weren't random visitors after all. Perhaps they were part of a pattern. The media never heard these discussions. But within the scientific community, fear took on a new shape. Not of invasion, but of implication. What if we had just witnessed evidence of a civilization millions of years ahead of us? What if 3I Atlas wasn't an anomaly, but a routine survey, repeated countless times across galaxies? Some researchers began speaking off the record. They described internal directives to downplay the findings, to label the data inconclusive, to preserve public confidence. Others resigned quietly, their names removed from research citations. One, a senior astronomer from Prague, summarized it best. "We are not panicking because we think they're coming. We are panicking because they already came," and left without saying a word. Months passed. 3I Atlas was officially categorized as a non-gravitational interstellar body. The term meant nothing. It was a linguistic shield, a way to label the unexplainable so it could be filed away in reports, comfortably detached from reality. But in the shadows of observatories, hard drives were being copied, data sets hidden, researchers preserving what they believed history might one day need. Then one last revelation surfaced. A Canadian deep space observatory, running long-term thermal drift simulations, discovered a final anomaly. During its closest solar approach, 3I Atlas emitted a microburst of radiation, less than a millisecond, precisely aligned with Earth's orbital vector. Too brief to be detected in real time, too targeted to be chance. The direction was exact, straight toward our planet. Was it a scan? A signal? A mark of recognition? No one knows, but the data was real. And when the observatory attempted to publish the findings, their servers were hit with a cyber attack that erased everything within minutes. Officially, the incident was dismissed as routine maintenance error. Unofficially, the team went silent. Today, Atlas is somewhere beyond the reach of our instruments, a faint speck lost in the cold wilderness between stars. But the wake it left behind still haunts the scientists who studied it. Because if it was a message, we may never know what it said. And if it was a visitor, we have no idea whether it was coming from somewhere and or going back. In the quiet halls of observatories, under the dim hum of computer monitors, the fear still lingers. That what came to us wasn't just a rock or a relic, but a question, one written across the stars in a language we aren't ready to read. And the more they study the data, the more one thought keeps echoing in the silence of their labs. What if 3I Atlas didn't leave at all? Maybe it simply stopped being visible. Maybe somewhere out there in the dark, or right here hidden in plain sight, it's still watching. For days after 3I Atlas vanished, the night sky seemed quieter, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Telescopes returned to their normal routines, observatories resumed scheduled surveys, and yet, beneath the silence, something had changed. You could feel it in the air. Scientists who had built their careers on certainty now looked uneasy in their interviews. Astronomers who once spoke in the language of light years and equations now hesitated before answering simple questions. Because 3I Atlas hadn't just passed through our solar system, it had left behind something more haunting, doubt. And that doubt grew louder with every new analysis. The data didn't fade like it should have. Weeks after the object's disappearance, strange fluctuations still echoed in the magnetosphere, faint but persistent, like the afterimage of a flash that refuses to leave your vision. At first they blamed faulty instruments. then software interference. But as independent observatories confirmed identical readings, one question began to spread across the scientific community like static on an open frequency. Was 3i Atlas really gone? When researchers plotted the trajectory backward, it didn't point to any known star system. It came from a direction no one expected, the interstellar void between constellations, where there should have been nothing. No birthplace, no origin, just emptiness. And yet something had crossed that emptiness to reach us, something that behaved like it had a destination. As months passed, secrecy grew. A few astronomers were quietly removed from official panels after speaking too openly. One leaked email described anomalous synchronization, a term that appeared in multiple classified memos. It referred to a pattern buried deep within 3i Atlas's data signature, one that matched no known natural rhythm. It wasn't random. It pulsed every 17 minutes and 42 seconds for 3 days straight, then stopped the moment the object left our system. Some dismissed it as coincidence. Others called it a cosmic metronome, the heartbeat of something built, not born. And that's when fear took hold. You see, astronomy has always been a science of wonder. It's about gazing upward, seeking answers, believing that the universe is a vast, beautiful mystery waiting to be understood. But for the first time in modern history, the universe looked back and it didn't blink. Scientists weren't afraid of aliens or invasions or cinematic fantasies. They were afraid of the implication that intelligence might be out there, older than time, colder than compassion, watching silently while we stare into the dark, thinking we're alone. One astrophysicist from Harvard, who later refused to comment publicly, wrote in a private note that leaked online, "It wasn't traveling at us or away from us. It was observing, like a drone passing by a field, recording everything, then leaving when the job was done." That line spread like wildfire. Recording everything. Governments denied it, of course. Official statements called the claims unverified speculation. But funding for deep space monitoring quietly tripled. SETI projects that were once struggling for survival suddenly received new grants, labeled under planetary awareness initiatives. Observatories that had been shut down for lack of maintenance were suddenly reactivated. Something had spooked those in charge, something they weren't sharing. Meanwhile, the public fascination grew into obsession. Forums lit up with theories. Was 3i Atlas a probe from a dying civilization? A warning beacon from beyond? Or something even stranger? A messenger, not for us, but for something else? Then came the real twist. A year after the disappearance, NASA's infrared satellites picked up a faint, slow-moving object on the far edge of the Kuiper Belt. It was small, barely visible against cosmic noise, but its motion was familiar. The same inclination, the same erratic rotation, the same impossible acceleration pattern. At first, the data was flagged as a system glitch. Then the timestamps aligned and perfectly. It had reappeared, but this time it wasn't moving toward the stars. It was holding position. Hours later, communication networks in several parts of the world experienced simultaneous disruptions, short bursts of high-frequency interference, all within the same 17-minute, 42-second interval pattern seen a year before. Coincidence? Maybe. But to the scientists who remembered those nights, it was like hearing a knock on the door you hoped was never real. And that's where the real panic began, because if 3i Atlas wasn't random, then someone knew we were here. It forces the question no scientist wants to face. What if we're not alone and we've already been found? Not by a message or a signal, but by a probe quietly recording us, understanding our chemistry, our orbit, our vulnerabilities. The panic isn't loud or dramatic. It's the quiet kind. The kind that settles in meeting rooms and data archives, when every new discovery might mean something more. Scientists still look up at the stars, but now they look differently, as if they're searching for eyes looking back. And yet, in the middle of all that fear, there's awe. Because if 3i Atlas truly came from another civilization, it means something extraordinary. That intelligence doesn't end with us. That consciousness found a way to cross interstellar space. That the universe, vast, cold and infinite, is not empty after all. But there's another possibility, one that chills even the most rational minds. What if it wasn't a message to us, but a message about us? A record stored in silence sent onward to somewhere else. A cosmic report saying they exist, They are aware. They are watching back. No one knows which possibility is worse, that we've been discovered or that we've been ignored. Even now, data streams continue from distant telescopes, each one a fragment of the truth. Every faint signal, every unexplained light curve, every echo from deep space could be another three-eye atlas, just waiting to be seen. Maybe we've already missed hundreds. Maybe we're surrounded and only now beginning to realize it. One thing is certain, after Three-Eye Atlas, humanity will never look at the sky the same way again. The old comfort, that space was silent, is gone. In its place, a question hums softly in the background of every observatory, every late-night lab session, every radio telescope scanning the dark. Who sent it? And will it ever come back? Because when it does, and it will, we'll have to decide what to do when the silence finally answers. And before we close tonight's story, remember this: discovery always begins with a question. And sometimes the most terrifying answers are the ones we're not ready to understand. Thank you for watching The Sleep Lab, where curiosity never sleeps and the unknown is always closer than you think. If you enjoyed this journey into the cosmic mystery of Three-Eye Atlas, subscribe to the channel, leave a like and turn on notifications, because the next discovery might already be on its way, and you'll want to be awake for it.